It took me long to actually do this video, but there's no introduction. Hey guys, you already saw by the title, and probably that's why you tuned in. But yeah, guys, like the few minutes ago, even yesterday, I was just feeling forsaken. I was just feeling like, God, can you hear me? Can you understand? Can you? I don't know how to put it, né? But there is no feeling that is as worse as feeling forsaken or feeling like God does not hear you. Imagine your own creator feeling. Okay, sorry guys, né? As you can see, there are people who passed. I'm so shy. But anyways, there's no worse feeling than feeling like God has forsaken you, or feeling like God does not hear your prayers, or feeling like, your prayers are not being heard. That is the worst feeling that you can ever have, especially when the one who you trust is God, and now that you trust him, and now it seems like nothing is really going according to what you want. Yeah, that's the worst actually, and that's what I felt a few minutes ago, and even yesterday. Yeah, but it reminded me as well it reminded me of, this is a very spontaneous video. It reminded me of Psalms 22. Psalms 22, it is literally a psalm of David. First, the verse first starts off by saying, my God, why have you forsaken me? These words are very familiar to what Jesus Christ himself said when he was at the cross. He said, my God, why have you forsaken me? But I won't focus on that at the moment. I'll explain later on. So I found myself relating to Psalms 22, because in verse 1, you can tell that, David is feeling forsaken. And in verse 2, he feels like God doesn't hear him. And then in verse 3, I think, he feels like his prayers are falling on deaf ears. Imagine, if King David himself was feeling that way, then it makes me feel better to know that, okay, I'm not alone in this. I don't go through this alone, He feels alone. He feels like death is near him because of his enemies. And, he feels weak. And he's crying to God repeatedly, not just once. And the fact that he's repeating this, it shows that he's really in distress, He's really not okay, And I want to ask you, have you been there? Are you there at that point? Do you feel like God has given up on you? And how do you take it? And I just want to say that, Psalms 22 is literally your friend at this point, because you can relate to it. Yeah. So in verse 1 to 2, he cries out in despair. And then in verse 3 to 5, he appeals to God's character and past faithfulness, right? And then he goes back to despair again in verses 6 to 8, because he cries out in hopelessness, This leads him again to remembering God's faithfulness in a personal way in verses 9 and 10, and also God's faithfulness in the past history as well. So if you can notice, David is going back and forth. He's trusting God, and then he goes back to hopelessness, and then he goes back to trusting God again, and remembering his character, and remembering who he really is, and remembering his faithfulness towards the people in the past, like history, and his faithfulness to him specifically, because he also mentions how God has been with him from birth actually, and I feel like that's how it is in the Christian life. It's a constant back and forth. And I just want to tell you that it's normal, because even Christ himself felt forsaken. But once again, as a Christian as well, we should be persistent in prayer. Yes, you might not see the fruits at the moment, but of course, one day, you just know that one day God will deliver you. Christ delivered David, because you see that in verses 21 and 22, where it says, save me from the lion's mouth, from the horns of the wild oxen. You answered me. So now it's like he's now remembering that, okay, he's just telling us that, God has answered him now. And the verse just shows us that, he's asking God, like, can you please save me from death? Can you please save me from destruction? And then he later on says, you answered me. So it shows that God is capable of delivering you, even though it might seem like it doesn't seem like it, you know. But just remember that be consistent in that prayer that you have. Consistently pray, and God will definitely deliver you. The same way God also delivered Jesus Christ. Yes, Jesus Christ was feeling like God has forsaken him when he was at the cross because it was dark. It felt so dark. But now he remembered that, okay, just know that he was delivered, because we know that, okay, yeah, we are saved because of that, you know. So it just shows that God will never ever forsake you. He is there. Yes, it might feel like he has forsaken you, but he is there with you, you know. And one day, just one day, he will deliver you and he will answer you, you know. And when you feel forsaken by God, we can follow David's pattern of persistent prayer. So that's what I want to tell you today, that yes, we are Christians, guys. It's not easy. It's really not easy, shame. Even for me personally, let me fix that. Even for me personally, it's really not easy, but you know, it's important to go back to God, just like what David did. From verses 1 to verses 22, it was a constant back and forth. Trusting in God, despairing, trusting in God, distrusting. And then verse 22 was the turning point, whereby now he's praising God, you know, praising God. So we also will come to a point whereby we'll be also praising God. And you see, right now, I'm actually speaking about this and I'm actually okay now, because, you know, that's how it is. God just gives you peace, even though you feel like he has forsaken you. Remember, I did mention that a few minutes ago, I did feel like he has forsaken me, yes. But now, you see, I'm even sharing this message. It's really amazing. It's really amazing. And I totally understand what you're going through, Shame. So, be consistent in prayer. Psalms 1 tells us that blessed are those who delight in the law of God and meditated on it day and night. For he is like a tree planted by the river, you know, shall not be shaken. So always meditate on the word of God, you know, and know the promises that God has, and claim it in your life. That's all I have to say. And yeah, just be consistent in prayer as well. Have a great day.